Hey everyone, I'm Ermysenigma, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Watinhart. When a drift net swept part of his family away from him, Watinhart decided to devote his life to protecting the ocean. He always does so with the best attitude, and even in the most dangerous times, he brings hope and strength to the creatures in the ocean. So here we have Watinhart as a child, as a teen, as an adult. Overall, I really like this monster's design. As a child, he's an adorable little creature. As an adult, he's a creepy little creature, but I still like the design. Anyways, you should know that as of the time recording this video, there are a total of 21 legendary water monsters, so I'm going to be comparing Watinhart to the remaining 20 water monsters. And so we start off with power. Watinhart has a power of 3421, which puts him in 9th place. And even though his power is in 9th place, which puts him in like the middle of all the water monsters, I'd still say anything over 3400 is still a pretty good power to have. As for his life of 30,763, this is actually the third highest life stat for water monsters, and it actually puts him in 4th place. So he is an incredibly tanky water legendary monster. And as for his speed of 3,399, this is the exact same speed that Varna has, and both monsters are tied for 13th place. And as for his trait, he is immune to freeze, which when it comes to water monsters, this is possibly the best trait you can have. The only thing Watinhart has to worry about now is being stunned, being stamina drained, and your occasional possession, because now water monsters actually do have possession skills. Still though, the majority of water monsters do have free skills, so having this trait is absolutely perfect. And before I move on, it appears that Watinhart is going to be an attacker slash a tank monster. He's not a deny monster by any means, he's not fast enough for that, but really he's going to shine as being a tank. And I know for the most part, this game doesn't favor tanks. You know, Team Wars is normally a dynamic of bring a deny monster to immobilize the enemy, bring an attacker that can one hit or immobilize, and you're pretty much good to go. You don't really need support monsters, you don't really need tank monsters. Assuming you're not counting deny monsters as supports, you know, they're like in their own separate category. Deny monsters are there to stop the enemy from attacking, attackers are there to attack. Tanky monsters rarely get used just because of that dynamic, but I still think there is a place for them, and I'll explain that after I go over all the skills. So starting things off with defaults, Marine Defender and Custio's favorite, nothing too interesting there. As for the ultimate attack, Water Lasers. Deals very heavy water damage, may burn target, gains 50% shield. So Water Lasers is a water based attack that deals 65 damage to a single enemy. As far as the damage output, I'm really not that impressed. Furthermore, because it's water based, I'm even less impressed. If this was special based, I would have been like okay. If it was an AoE, I would have loved it. But 65 water based damage to an enemy, that's not too amazing. What I like about this skill is that it does give burning, so there is that potential to kill the enemy monster with a DOT and skip the following monster's turn. And on top of that, you get a big shield, which is the main important thing here. You get a 50% shield. Considering you have 30,000 HP, that is a 15k shield, and that's without any life runes. On a Watinhart, on a tanky monster, I'd imagine you want to put at least one life rune. So that big shield, that 50% shield, that is going to be significant. However, this is your ultimate attack, and the chance to actually get this in a war is like 5%, so you're not going to be using it often. However, if you ever do face off with General Thetis, and Thetis does Stamina Devours, and you happen to get your ultimate, hey, your Watinhart is going to be safe. There's no way the enemy attacker is going to be taking out your Watinhart if you have a 50% shield on. In skills group 1, we have Deep Water Horizon, Squid in the Shell, Arctic Water, and the only skill I actually want to talk about is Squid in the Shell. Deals moderate special damage, gains a 20% shield. So Squid in the Shell is a special based attack that deals only 35 damage, it costs 27 stamina, and it has no cooldown, so it's spammable, and you get a mini shield. And although 20% may not seem significant, keep in mind that you do start with 30k life. Let's just suppose you give this monster a level 10 life rune. His new life would be almost 64,000. You would get almost a 13,000 shield, which is pretty great because it's spammable. You could always use this shield. Your Watinhart can always have a shield on if you need it. And I think I would probably recommend this skill more if you're specifically making Watinhart for defense. For offense, I think you could kind of do without it, but that's going to be up for you to decide. You're going to find out that in skills group 2 and 3, there's not really anything too amazing other than just maybe one skill. So Squid in the Shell from skills group 1 is a possibility. In skills group 2, we have Antarctic Water. Deals moderate water damage, may freeze target, requires cooldown. So Antarctic Water is a water based attack that deals 45 damage to a single enemy monster. It only costs 28 stamina and it has a 1-turn cooldown. And it also freezes. And there's really not much to say about this skill, it's pretty straightforward. I wish it was special based, I wish it could have been stronger, but it is what it is, and at the end of the day you can still immobilize one enemy monster, which may come in handy, so I would recommend running this skill. The next skill is Rainbow Warrior. Deals heavy special damage, makes enemy very weak against water attack, requires cooldown. Rainbow Warrior is a special based attack that deals 50 damage to a single enemy monster, it costs 28 stamina, it has a 1-turn cooldown, and it applies water weakness, which makes your water attacks 80% stronger. And this is actually the very first time we have an attack that makes the enemy very weak to water attacks, so that's pretty awesome. What's not that awesome is that this only targets a single enemy as opposed to all of the enemy monsters. but I guess in Watinhart's case that's not much of a problem because he doesn't even have a water-based AoE, and he appears to have only single target hits. So I'm actually going to come back to this skill. I gotta discuss a skill in skills group 3 that I think there may be a mistake on, so depending on whether or not there is a mistake in skills group 3, you may actually have to run this skill, so I'll talk about that shortly. Next up is Sick Packed Rings. Deals moderate water damage, requires cooldown. This is a water based attack that deals 40 damage to a single enemy monster, it costs 28 stamina and has a 2-turn cooldown, and I absolutely do not understand this skill. Especially comparing it to Antarctic Water, which has the same stamina cost. It deals 5 more damage, the cooldown is 1 turn less, and it applies freezing, whereas this skill, it's just really vanilla. I don't understand the skill. Was it supposed to be an AoE? Was it supposed to be something more? But as of what the skill is right now, you should not run this skill, do not even think about it. So thus we move on to skills group 3, and we have Prestige Oil Spill. Steals life from target, requires cooldown. This is a water based skill that deals 50 damage to the enemy monster. It only costs 25 stamina, which is pretty low for attacks, and it has a 2-turn cooldown, and it life steals 50%. So even though the skill isn't that strong, I actually do like it a lot, especially if you use this skill after making the enemy very weak to water attacks. You're going to be recovering a lot of life. Keep in mind that Watinhart is not a pure attacker, he's a tanky monster. He has a lot of life, he has a skill that can give him shields, and now he has a skill that can recover his life. So it's quite possible to win a match having full life with Watinhart even if he's been attacked, thanks to this lifesteal and thanks to the shields. And it goes without saying that you definitely want to have this skill on your skill set. Next up is Rainbow Revenge. This is the skill I'm talking about that I think there might be a mistake. Deals moderate special damage, makes enemy very weak against water attacks, requires cooldown. So Rainbow Revenge, as it says it right now, it deals 45 damage to a single enemy monster, it costs 28 stamina, and has a 3-turn cooldown. This skill makes absolutely no sense, especially compared to Rainbow Warrior. So when you compare Rainbow Revenge to Rainbow Warrior deals 50 damage, whereas Rainbow Revenge deals 45 damage. So you're dealing 5 less damage, the stamina cost is the same, but take a look at the cooldowns. 3-turn cooldown as opposed to 1-turn cooldown. Why would a skill that's weaker have a higher cooldown? That makes no sense. I honestly think this is supposed to be like an AoE, but at the same time, like, it's kind of a low stamina cost for an AoE, so I can't say that for certain, but I just don't understand how a weaker skill. I mean, to be honest, the same thing applies with 6-pack rings. 40 damage where you have like Antarctic Water for 45 damage and then Oil Spill for 50 damage, like, I just don't understand it. So I don't really know what to say. If Rainbow Revenge turns out to be an AoE, I would say run it over Rainbow Warrior. Otherwise, run Rainbow Warrior and forget about Rainbow Revenge. And if this skill actually does turn out to be an AoE, then Watinhart becomes slightly better, because then if you have an epic monster and legendary monster that's water based, they can at least benefit from the enemies being very weak to water attacks. And not to mention that Watinhart can now target any monster with a water attack and he gets that elemental advantage. And as for the final skill, Gun Shell. Deals very heavy special damage, gains a 30% shield, requires cooldown. This is a special base skill that deals 65 damage, it costs 30 stamina, and it has a high 3-turn cooldown, but you do get a small shield which is 30%. And once again, even though it's small shield 30%, that may not seem like a lot. If you give this monster a life rune, for example a level 10 life rune, that is a pretty big shield. You'd be giving your Watinhart almost a 20k shield. And as far as the damage output on this skill, if you were to give this monster 2 strength runes, 2 really high level strength runes and a speed rune, you know, the typical attacker rune setup, then you could potentially knock out any one of the legendary monsters in one hit, but I really don't recommend going the 2 strength 1 speed, because overall I feel like it'd be a waste on this monster. As of right now, the skills I can recommend for sure would be Gun Shell, Prestige Oil Spill, and Antarctic Water. And as for the final skill, it's either going to be Rainbow Revenge or Rainbow Warrior. Pick Rainbow Warrior if Rainbow Revenge isn't an AoE, and if Rainbow Revenge turns out to be an AoE, then go with Rainbow Revenge. And for runes, I would recommend 1 life rune, 1 speed rune, and 1 strength rune. And although this monster may not get that much usage in Team Wars, if you're ever in a situation where the enemy is way faster than you, it doesn't even benefit you to run a water monster with all speed runes, you might as well try out using Watinhart with a strength, life, and a speed rune. Because let's just take for example a General Thetis on defense. All the General Thetis can really do is do Stamina Devours. After that, she really can't do anything to you. She can't freeze you because you're immune to freeze. Stamina Devours, that stalls you for 1 turn, but it also stalls herself, and she's running all speed runes, so she has base power, she can't really deal that much damage. If you have a Watinhart with a life rune, a high level life rune, it is going to be near impossible to take out your Watinhart. All you have to do is take out the enemy attacker. And even that attacker, even if it has some pretty high runes, because you have a high level life rune yourself, and because you yourself have this 65 damage special base skill that gives you a small shield, and a 50 damage skill that gives you lifesteal, even if the enemy attacker hits you, I'm pretty sure you're going to be surviving. There's no way the enemy attacker is going to be able to one hit you if you have a life rune on. And then you could probably end up winning the battle with 2 or 3 war coins depending on the rarity. And I also think that this could be a viable monster to put on defense. If you were to put this monster on defense, I would recommend Gun Shell, Prestige Oil Spill, Antarctic Water, and lastly Squid in the Shell. And the main reason for using Squid in the Shell, it's just because you want to make your Watinhart as hard to kill as possible, and hopefully Watinhart can, in that time he's alive, eliminate one of the enemy monsters, most likely the rarity monster. So even though you end up losing, at the very least you eliminated the enemy from successfully getting 3 coins against you. They're only going to get 2 coins, which overall helps your team and could be the difference between winning or losing the whole entire war. Now I know the common consensus is to pick a water monster with all speed runes as your defense monster, usually a General Thetis, but once again if the enemy has the General Thetis themselves and they are way faster than you, then it really doesn't help you to have a deny monster with all speed runes, because guess what, they're going to deny you first anyways, so your own General Thetis is never going to get a chance to deny, and most often than none the enemy is probably going to wipe out your Thetis before it gets a churn in, because that's just the way the game is. You run a deny monster, you run an attacker, and you pretty much win in like 2 or 3 churns. But if you give a life rune to your defense monster, even if they're immobilized on turn 1, which would have happened anyways, at least now they have a lot more life and they can actually survive, and it gives you the chance to defeat their rarity monster. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be my analysis for Watinhart. Overall, I really don't see that many people finding too much interest in him just because of the dynamic of Team Wars. That doesn't mean he isn't usable, he can certainly be used in certain situations, but overall if you have to prioritize monsters, as far as water monsters are concerned, you really should look elsewhere. That's at least my thoughts on it. And with that being said, thank you all for watching. Please let me know what you thought about this analysis and let me know whether you agree or disagree with me. Let me know what are your own thoughts on this monster. With that being said, once again, thank you all for watching. Remember to dream big and pursue your passions. I'll see you guys next time.